On the sweltering edge of Chicago, a lonely black fruit vendor gave her last $20 to a starving white boy. She sheltered him, called him son, and stood up to the people who abused him. Years later, when her stall was about to be bulldozed, a luxury car pulled up, and the man who stepped out would change everything. Before we dive into this story, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Summer arrived in Havenwood, a vibrant little town nestled on the outskirts of Phoenix. Heat shimmered above the asphalt, the first rays of morning sun already like warm caresses. The temperature soared, each breath a humid promise. The warmth was comforting. This morning, Miss Eliza stepped out of her charming bungalow, her feet light. Her comfortable cotton dress barely stood a chance against the refreshing breeze that kissed her skin. She felt a gentle warmth in her left knee. She was a kind Latina woman, carrying the wisdom of a rich past from New Mexico, and the quiet acceptance of a city that had truly embraced her. She made a comfortable living selling flowers at the town square, thriving day to day. In her heart, where old memories of joy and connection still bloomed, a quiet flame of generosity burned. She didn't know that a fateful encounter awaited her today, amidst the approaching warmth of the afternoon. On Havenwood's bustling town square, Miss Eliza stood quietly behind her vibrant flower stall. She was in her 50s, with warm, sun-kissed olive skin and flowing dark hair. Her eyes were gentle, bright. Her hands were nimble from decades of tending to blooms. She sold fragrant roses, bright sunflowers, and delicate lilies. Her goods were always fresh and beautiful, and customers were always plentiful. She didn't complain, just shared her joy patiently. Miss Eliza used to be a dedicated art teacher, loving children more than anything. But then, a different path opened, and she found a new purpose, embracing her dream of being a nurturing spirit. The longing for a child always resonated softly in her heart, a gentle dream. She vividly remembered her grandmother's words. "My child, kindness is the only thing that never runs out when you give it away. It will return to you one way or another." In Phoenix, community connections were a beautiful reality. She was familiar with the warm glances, the shared smiles. She had found the most fulfilling, rewarding work. Each evening, as she packed up her stall, the warmth of belonging to a family, with many beloved children, felt even more acute. She always had enough, sometimes daring to share extra meals or offer flowers to those less fortunate. She moved with ease, with the pleasant warmth when she woke at dawn to go to the flower market. Life was a constant blessing, and Miss Eliza always let gratitude win. She chose to maintain her kindness, to be resilient, turning her experiences into motivation to help others. One Tuesday afternoon, Miss Eliza was arranging the last of her sunflowers. She had just counted the ample earnings in her wicker basket, enough for a delightful dinner. She had enjoyed a lovely lunch that day. Outside, the sun began to shine brighter. She looked up, and noticed a small figure lingering by her stand. A thin, pale boy, so small he was just skin and bones, his face drawn, his clothes ragged, and his deep blue eyes etched with desperate hunger. Just then, from the neighboring pastry shop, shouts erupted. A large man, the bakery owner, was chasing the boy away. "Go on, you rascal, don't go picking through scraps." The boy trembled and backed away, still clutching a hard, dry piece of bread he had snatched from the ground. His desperate gaze and the dusty piece of bread made Miss Eliza understand everything. The boy said nothing, just stood there, staring at the vibrant roses, swallowing hard. Miss Eliza looked at the boy. She saw his sparse blonde hair, his thin trembling shoulders. She looked into those blue eyes, and in them she saw a flicker of her own spirit from many years ago, the quiet yearning, the openness, the potential. She lowered her voice, warm and gentle. "Boy, when was the last time you ate?" The boy flinched, shrinking back, not daring to look up, just shaking his head slightly. Miss Eliza didn't need an explanation. She reached into her wicker basket and pulled out a neatly folded $20 bill. It was a small portion of her comfortable profit from a long day of selling. She handed the money to the boy. "Here," she said, "go get a decent meal. And tomorrow come meet me here. You can stay with me for a while if you want. I have a guest room big enough for you to sleep on, and I'll have work for you to do." The boy blinked, clutching the $20 bill in his hand. A strange warmth ran down his arm, not from the bill, but from the eyes of the stranger. It was the first time he felt seen, genuinely cared for. "Why are you doing this?" The boy mumbled. Miss Eliza smiled, a kind smile that warmed the summer air. "Because I once understood what it means to need kindness, son." Clutching the $20 bill, Leo walked down the sun-drenched street. He felt strangely relieved, a rare warmth seeping through his thin clothes. He was too used to the heat and isolation. He lived 2 blocks away, in a stuffy, neglected apartment. His ribs showed through his thin shirt. He was only 8 when his mother died. His father, David, was neglectful and remarried Sarah, a bossy woman who always treated him as a burden. The boy went from being a grieving child to a living servant, ordered around, yelled at, and ignored mercilessly. Every morning, Sarah would throw a list of chores at him, along with threats of no food. David, his father, just sat on the couch watching TV, ignoring it all. Leo understood he was an outcast, a shadow in his own home. Hunger was the worst part. He was exhausted, desperate for a kind glance. The next day, Leo timidly appeared at Miss Eliza's flower stand. She smiled, offering him a vibrant red rose and a turkey sandwich. Can I help you with anything?" he mumbled. Miss Eliza was even warmer. "You can help me arrange these baskets of sunflowers, and then come home with me. I have a place for you tonight." That was the first night Leo slept on the comfortable couch in Miss Eliza's charming bungalow. He curled up under the soft blanket she had found. That night, he slept better than he had in years, free from Sarah's yelling or coldness. He felt a sense of safety, a peace he hadn't experienced since his mother died. The next morning, he woke early, watching Miss Eliza quietly preparing a simple breakfast. He felt a strange sense of calm. From that day on, Leo began working with Miss Eliza. He helped her with anything he could. Miss Eliza also occasionally shared a flower or a piece of bread with struggling individuals. She didn't care who they were, just felt compassion. One afternoon, as Leo was helping her pack up her stand, suddenly, an old rusty car pulled up. David, his father, and Sarah got out. Their eyes were cold, sweeping over Leo as if he were dirt. "You little brat, where have you been hiding? You good for nothing," Sarah snarled, then slapped Leo hard across the face. The boy staggered, falling to the ground, his cheek red with the imprint of 5 fingers. David just stood there, arms crossed, watching. Miss Eliza froze. She stepped forward, shielding Leo. She looked directly at David and Sarah, her kind eyes now shining with an unusual determination. "Enough," she said, her voice low and strong. "This boy is with me now. He is my son. You have no right to treat him this way." Sarah sneered, contemptuously. A kind old Latina woman, trying to be a mother. How ridiculous. David shrugged. "If he wants to go, let him go. He's just a burden anyway." Then they turned and left, leaving Leo sobbing, clutching his face at her feet. That scene was like a knife twisting in Miss Eliza's heart, and Leo's too. Miss Eliza knelt, holding the boy close. "Are you all right, son?" She gently stroked his sparse blonde hair. "Don't be afraid, you're not alone, you have me." The boy looked up at her, his eyes swollen, but in them, a small flame began to ignite. He felt protection, a kind of unconditional love he had never known. In that moment, a thought flashed in Leo's mind. He couldn't be a burden forever. He had to become strong, to learn how to protect himself and this woman. He didn't want her to suffer any more trouble because of him. Leo's presence was a ray of light warming her soul. She accepted even more humble meals, accepted nights of quiet reflection, because she believed the boy was a gift from life. That faith, and her yearning to be a nurturing figure, kept her strong. For the next 2 years Leo and Miss Eliza relied on each other, like 2 kindred spirits finding warmth in the other. Their lives, though simple, were filled with laughter and care. Miss Eliza became Leo's spiritual mother, his friend, his teacher. She told him about her life in New Mexico, the vibrant traditions she had cherished. She always ended with a message of hope and resilience. She also revealed for the first time her journey and her longing for a child. The boy listened with deep understanding, feeling as if he had found a true connection, an invisible bond formed. 2 women and a boy, though not related by blood, created a small family in the warmth of Havenwood. Every morning, Miss Eliza prepared a simple breakfast. Leo would help her clean the stall, arrange flowers and learn to count money. She taught him to read from old books she had, showed him how to identify different flowers, and instilled in him patience and kindness. In the evenings, after packing up the stall, the two of them would go back to her charming bungalow. She would mend his torn clothes, tell him inspiring stories, and sing simple melodies. Leo would sit beside her, sketching on scraps of paper, or reading under the soft lamplight. His laughter, his presence, chased away the lingering loneliness in her heart. She felt she had a purpose again. Leo, now 12 years old, was no longer as fearful as before, but he carried a quiet worry. He didn't want Miss Eliza to get into trouble because of him. He still helped her, but also tried to maintain a civil attitude with his father and Sarah to avoid unnecessary conflicts. However, deep down, he knew he needed a different future, a future where he could stand on his own and protect this kind woman. Every night, he envisioned his future self as a successful man, capable of protecting her. He plunged into the public library, curious about computers, about how they worked. He devoured books on science, technology, believing that knowledge was the only way he would never have to bow down to the cruelty of people like Sarah and David. He would tell her about what he learned, his eyes lighting up whenever he talked about programming. She would just smile, listen, proud of him, like a mother. She believed that boy would make something of himself. One day, when Leo was exactly 14 years old, he came to say goodbye to Miss Eliza late one evening. He stood before her, his blue eyes no longer showing fear, but instead a burning determination. He had meticulously planned, saving every small coin from helping her at the stand. He knew the outside world was vast and challenging, but he couldn't keep being a burden to her. He had to go, to prove his worth, to become the person he believed he could be. The decision to leave, he knew, would ache in Miss Eliza's heart, but he believed it was the only way he would never disappoint her, never make her sacrifice for him again. He wanted her to be proud, to see that her kindness had not been in vain. "I'm leaving, Miss E," he said, his voice breaking slightly with emotion but full of resolve. "I won't forget you. I have to go, to find my own path." Miss Eliza was stunned, her heart constricted. A feeling of emptiness washed over her, softer than any summer breeze. She spread her arms wide, hugging the boy tightly. His warmth seeped into her, then faded as he gently pulled away. She watched his back disappear into the night, getting smaller, then vanishing. The room became peacefully empty again. Miss Eliza sat back on the couch, tears silently falling. She had cherished her companion, her spiritual son. Quiet anticipation filled her every day, a hopeful void. Her stall returned to its cheerful bustle. She continued her work with joy, day after day, finding purpose with hope and light. She often prepared an extra small meal, only to happily share it when she realized she could connect with others. Sometimes, she would go to the town square where the boy used to wait, gazing into the vibrant life, as if waiting for a blessing. Many years passed. Miss Eliza still stood at her stand, still selling flowers, and the wisdom in her eyes had deepened. Time etched gentle lines onto her shoulders. Her vibrant spirit became more persistent. She still packed up her stand early, but every step was light now. She still often faced warm glances, appreciative words. The ample profits allowed her to live comfortably. Her back was straighter, her feet felt lighter. A few years before everything happened, Miss Eliza once visited a neighbor's house to watch TV. On the news, they spoke of a young entrepreneur, a self-made millionaire, who had just built a large tech company. Miss Eliza only glanced at it, unaware that it was the very boy she had taken in. Then came a blessed day. Her neighborhood was slated for revitalization. A bright blue renovation notice was posted right in front of her stall, announcing that the area would be transformed within 1 month for a new community park. Her stall, her joyful livelihood, would be part of something beautiful. She had enough resources to rent another space. Miss Eliza stood with a light heart, her hands calmly touching the smooth sign. Her face was serene, her eyes sparkling, staring into a promising future. The feeling of being part of something new, embraced in a rapidly changing city, filled her with deep joy. Her blessings didn't stop there. One warm summer morning, on her way to the stall, she stumbled but caught herself. The brief jolt was minor, but even more heartwarming was the feeling of being surrounded by the love of her community. She was able to continue her work, vibrant and full of life. Money flowed, food was plentiful, and hope steadily brightened. She felt enriched by everything. That night, she lay on the couch, nestled under a soft blanket, each breath easy, not from illness, but from contentment. She closed her eyes, thinking of her grandmother, her loved ones and Leo. Tears of joy streamed down her temples. She had thrived for so many years, and now, she felt utterly fulfilled. Amidst the warmth of a bright afternoon, as Miss Eliza gazed happily at the construction workers starting to transform the surrounding stalls, a wave of gratitude washed over her. Suddenly, a gleaming expensive black car slowly pulled up nearby. The door opened, and a tall, well-dressed young man in a crisp suit stepped out. He had the air of success, confident, unlike the familiar faces she usually saw. Miss Eliza watched the elegant man walking towards her. Her heart soared. She spoke in a low, warm voice, filled with joy and hope. "Do you need anything, young man? I suppose you're here to appreciate the changes, right?" Her voice was filled with serenity, brimming with anticipation. The young man smiled, a radiant smile she had never seen on the thin, gaunt face of the boy from long ago. His voice choked with emotion. "Nearly 20 years ago, you helped me, Miss E. You even gave me a home and a job." His eyes reflected distant memories, memories of gut-wrenching hunger, of the coldness of the hallway, of the warmth from her hand, of the $20 bill that had saved his life. She tilted her head, squinting, trying to recognize him. The traces of the hungry boy had been erased by time and success. Suddenly, her eyes widened. A spark ignited. On his wrist a small star-shaped scar, the result of falling while trying to carry a crate of flowers for her that day. That scar was the only mark, never fading. Slowly, her hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with surprise, unable to believe her sight. Her whole body trembled. "Leo," she whispered, the name escaping her lips like a prayer, full of wonder and overflowing emotion. He nodded, tears now streaming down his face. "Leo." She burst into tears, hugging him tightly, her tears falling like rain. "My God, my son, I thought I'd never see you again." She caressed his face, hot tears rolling down her wrinkled cheeks. "Look at you, so tall and successful. I'm so proud of you, Miss." Eliza's eyes were filled with tears. She looked him up and down. "My God, look at you. You're so tall and distinguished. Oh my God, my son." She spread her arms wide, her nimble fingers trembling. They hugged right there on the sidewalk, tightly, as if to make up for all the years of separation, and for her long-cherished longing for a child. In Leo's warm embrace, Miss Eliza felt all her joy, connection and hope suddenly expand. She was no longer alone. Leo quickly took Miss Eliza back to her bungalow and cared for her. He stayed all night, sitting beside her, holding her hand tightly. The next morning, Leo took her to lunch at the most luxurious restaurant in the city. She hesitated, having never stepped into such a place. Leo gently placed his hand on her back. "It's okay, Miss E. You deserve it." She ordered delicious grilled fish and refreshing iced tea. Leo began to tell her everything, every single detail about his journey. He told her about those first nights navigating the streets after leaving her, the summer warmth, the quiet determination. He told her about finding the public library, where he began to teach himself programming on an old computer. "I always remembered your words, Miss E. Never stop learning." He told her about being driven by a desire to help, wanting to protect other children from experiencing hardship. "It was the drive to help others from my childhood, and your kindness that fueled me to build SafeSnap, a smart lock system." He told her about hundreds of rejections from investors. "They laughed at me, but every time I was rejected, I remembered your resilient gaze, and that gave me strength." He told her about the boom of SafeSnap, his multi-million-dollar tech company, and how his technology had helped protect thousands of families. She didn't interrupt. She just listened, her gentle eyes fixed on him. She saw her resilience and kindness amplified, repaid, a living testament to the value of what she had given without expecting anything in return. Now he had returned like a son she never had, filling the void in her heart. When he finished speaking, he looked at her, his eyes brimming with gratitude and determination. "I didn't just come back to say thank you, Miss E. I came back to change your life. You deserve everything." She blinked quickly, saying nothing. Leo reached into his leather bag and pulled out a thick stack of documents, along with a shiny set of car keys. I bought you a shop, Miss E. A real flower and gift shop with solid walls, bright electric lights, and modern displays. It's fully stocked. You won't have to carry heavy boxes anymore. You have staff now, a team of employees who will help you with everything. And your old plot of land, I bought it back and will turn it into a community garden, a place where children can play and learn, a symbol of hope. She dropped her fork onto the plate. She looked at the documents, at the shining keys, then at Leo, tears flowing uncontrollably. My child, don't tease me, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. I'm not teasing, he said, taking her nimble hands. You gave me $20 when I had nothing. You fed me when the world forgot I existed. You gave me a home when I had nowhere to go. You asked for nothing in return. You just gave unconditionally. Now I'm paying it back 10 times over, and more. Miss Eliza began to sob, her cries choked. She covered her face, her shoulders shaking, whispering, "Thank God, thank God." Her tears were tears of happiness, of liberation after so many years of joyful effort, so much quiet devotion. It was an affirmation that her kindness had not been in vain, but had bloomed beautifully, bringing her a new family and a completely new life, a complete healing. News spread quickly through the neighborhood, inspiring the entire community. The shop opened 4 weeks later with a warm ribbon-cutting ceremony, attended by reporters and local officials. The sign above the entrance, emblazoned with Miss E's Havenwood blooms in bold white letters, shone like a beacon of hope. Inside it had everything: the freshest flowers, unique gifts, charming trinkets, even a cozy coffee corner. Miss Eliza now wore new clothes, elegant long dresses, looking dignified but still maintaining her simplicity and warmth. She had an aura of peace, of contentment. She stood at the entrance, greeting every customer with a radiant smile and warm inquiries, regardless of their background or story. She ensured that every child who came to the shop received a free flower. Among the first employees of Miss E's Havenwood Blooms were people she had helped when they were struggling. They returned, not just to work, but to help her, to repay the kindness they had received. They called Miss Eliza the nurturing spirit of the neighborhood. People came not just to shop, but to see her smile, to feel the warmth emanating from her benevolent heart. Children stopped by after school to hug her, calling her the neighborhood's auntie. She became a legend in that neighborhood, a living symbol of kindness and resilience. She had created a place where people didn't just shop, they belonged, a community built on love and acceptance. The boy's success was not just his story, but the strongest affirmation of Miss Eliza's legacy of kindness. On a special wall in the new shop, there was a simple framed picture. Inside was an old, slightly faded photo, Miss Eliza a little younger, smiling gently beside a thin young Leo, his eyes bright. Below it was her old worn apron, carefully framed, like a sacred relic. Leo still visited Miss Eliza often. He would often stop by after work, dropping by her shop. He'd sit with her on her new patio, sipping cool lemonade. He told her about his trips, Safe Snap's new projects, and how his company was helping the vulnerable. And she would tell him stories from the neighborhood, the positive changes since her shop opened. They were family, a family defined by compassion, not blood. One quiet evening, as the sun set, casting long shadows across Miss Eliza's comfortable new living room, Leo sat beside her. The city lights twinkled outside, a stark contrast to the dark, lonely streets he once roamed. He had just returned from a high-pressure business trip, a multi-million-dollar contract. He looked tired, with faint dark circles under his eyes. "You know, Miss E," he began, his voice softer than usual, "people only see the headlines, the fancy cars, the big offices. They see the millionaire tech mogul, but they don't see the sleepless nights, the constant pressure, the loneliness at the top." He paused, looking at his hands. "It's a different kind of hunger, a different kind of cold than what I knew growing up. The kind where everyone wants something from you, but few truly care about you." He sighed, a heavy, weary breath. "I've met so many people, partners, social acquaintances, but it all revolves around deals, profits. There's no real connection. No one like you, Miss E, who just gives without asking for anything in return." He looked at her, his eyes filled with a deep, unspeakable gratitude. I witnessed the cost of choosing a different path. My father and Sarah chose to pursue material things, abandoning me. Ultimately, their selfishness and cruelty made them lose all relationships, live in isolation, and perhaps, quiet regret. They left Havenwood in silence. No one knew where they went, carrying the heavy price of indifference. I used to wonder if I would end up like them, chasing something empty. But then I remembered you, Miss E. Your kindness, your resilience, that's the real wealth, that's what's truly valuable. He gently took her hand, his thumb tracing the lines on her palm. The life I have now, it's because of you, and it only truly has meaning because I can share it with you, because I can use it to help others, just as you taught me. Miss Eliza listened, her eyes full of understanding. She gently squeezed his hand. My child, you know, she said, her voice soft as a whisper, whenever you want, this place will always be your home, and I will always be your mother. Leo looked at her, tears welling up again. Yes, Mom, he said, his voice choked. Yes, Mom. He knelt, resting his head in her lap, like a child finding peace. That was the moment Leo officially accepted Miss Eliza as his mother, not by blood, but by boundless love and unconditional sacrifice. And Miss Eliza, with Leo's support, established Miss E's $20 fund. With the help of her staff, each week she still oversaw the selection of the 5 neediest children in the neighborhood, inviting them to the shop, and giving each a small envelope with $20, a flower, and warm advice. Kindness was not just repaid, it was inherited and spread. One day, sitting together, she looked at him, her eyes still gentle and wise. Do you know what I've learned? She asked, her voice soft. What, Mom? Leo asked back. My child, life is like a sunny path. Sometimes you stumble, but then someone helps you back up. Leo smiled. It saved my life, Mom. It truly saved my life. His voice caught. Miss Eliza reached up to her neck, touching the old faded cotton scarf. It was worn, but still comfortable, like her kindness. And in Miss E's Havenwood blooms, right next to the vibrant flower display, Leo had placed a simple wooden chair. On its back, a small plaque inscribed with the words, "Where she once sold flowers, the origin of love." Whenever the children of the neighborhood stopped by, they would sit on that chair, listening to the story of Miss Eliza, the grandmother of kindness, about a flower, a $20 bill, that changed a whole life. It was a living symbol, a spiritual legacy. Miss Eliza remained there, quietly but immortal, the soul of Havenwood, an eternal reminder of the power of human connection.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.